$1,420,000, rounded off. That was your actual revenues last year from all your property taxes, your insurance premium taxes, and occupational license, and your grant money, and so forth like that. And you came in at almost right in on budget. I mean, you was within $435 what you budgeted on revenues last year. So, you know, very rarely do you see it get that close. But anyway, that was good. Under budget in your expenses, you spent $246,000. You had budgeted about $259,000. So you came in under budget on the general government side. Police spent almost $394,000 last year. They budgeted about $408,000, so you about $14,000 under budget on police expenditures. So they came in under budget. Fire spent $341,000 roughly. I'm just rounding these up. They came over budget, but that was because they bought the 2 fire trucks, and you did not amend your budget for the purchase of those fire trucks. So that can be, you know, explained why you was over budget in the fire department. Street department, you came in about $15,000 under budget. Spent about $196,000. You budgeted about $211,000. So street came under budget. Sanitation is in kind of the same situation as the police department was. You was over budget, but you didn't budget for the garbage truck that was purchased last year. That was not in the budget. But again, it's not an issue. You got the loan money and so forth to purchase that. That's not an issue. Overall, on the general fund side, you had a almost $128,000 increase in fund balance last year. That was your revenues over expenditures for the year ended June 30, 2014, bringing your fund balance from $435,000 the prior year to $563,000 the current year. And you know what? I just seen a mistake. But anyway, I'll give Kathy on that. That fund balance was not restated, by the way. That was from the prior year, and I forgot to erase that out. So before you send any out, Kathy, I'll need to correct that page. So anyway, going over to page, look at the balance sheet on the general fund side. On page 5, you'll see that your total assets at June 30, 2014 was $628,000. This is on page 5 for the general fund. You'll see that your cash was $329,000, and that was up from $242,000 the prior year. Your receivables are roughly about the same. Sanitation fees receivable that you're getting from water and sewer, that was up about a little bit. So that's one of the things to talk about water and sewer here in a moment. Try to get that receivable down. Hopefully in the future, water and sewer will be able to catch up on those payments that's due to the general fund. So general fund, I mean, you've had 2 straight years that you've had increases in fund balances. Like I said, it was almost $128,000 this past year. Last year, at June 30, 2013, you had a $118,000 increase in fund balance. So the general fund is really operating really well right now. I know I've only done this audit for 2 years, but I think in the past, Kathy said that it was having some issues, financial issues and so forth. But it seems like you got your issues worked out, getting some money in the bank, and it's doing a good job. So I just commend the city for their efforts on running the general fund, the city side. The water and sewer, you'll see, had total revenues of almost $2.8 million for that 13-month period. Of course, that was up from the prior year, so I'm not going to compare it to the prior year. You had total operating expenses of $2.66 million, have an operating income of $133,000. Then you have your interest expense and interest income. Interest expense was about $154,000 on all your bonds and loans and so forth. And you'll see right here, that's the number, the income before any contributions and transfers. You had a loss of $18,381 for the fiscal year in June 30, 2014. That was a slight improvement. Again, I'm comparing this to a 13-month to a 12-month period. June 30, 2013, you had a $26,000 loss. So a little improvement there for the year ended June 30, 2014. What I'd like to see eventually get that number up into positive territory. I know I've had talked to, we had this discussion last year about your water rates and trying to make sure that, because expenses are going to go up every year, payroll's going to go up, cost of chemicals are going to go up, all your expenses are going up. Keep an eye on your revenues. You can't let your revenues stay stagnant. Of course, I had discussion, I know the city passed an ordinance where now you are looking at the consumer price index twice a year, as discussion about that the other day, January and July. So now you can keep your rates increased according to the consumer price index, so you don't fall behind on your revenues, because you know expenses are going to be increasing. So hopefully with these any water rate increases starting next year, we'll see what the rate's going to do when we look at next year's financials. Of course, you've probably already seen. I haven't looked at the June 30, 15 financials to see what your revenues look like. I'm sure you all do. So hopefully the revenue is increasing and you're starting to see a little more positive cash flow and so forth coming into the water and sewer.
As I understand, I want to make sure I do, where you have income lost before contributions and transfers.
Yes.
The $18,381.
Right.
Do I understand correctly that that was the deficit the water and sewer ran?
Right.
And then the general fund of the city made that up?
Well,
which is okay, I'm not saying.
Well, yeah, well, that's a totally separate fund, the general fund of the city. They had an increase in fund balance.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the fund balance, I'm talking about how do we make up that 18,000? Because we've got income lost before contributions and transfers on page 11.
Well, you don't.
Effort of mine to move these guys.
You need to have your audits out by March 31st.
Exactly.
So,
Him and Dan, who does our adjustments, and so this audit, like, we should have been done by
this past March.
March.
It really should have been out by March 31st.
exactly,
Right.
and we're behind. And so about April, the state says no more road fund until you get your audits done, and so we need that. And so I just don't see any reason to be delinquent in them.
Well, I'm confident. I'm saying this. I was confident this past year too. But I'm confident that we'll get them done by March 31st this year.
Dan said he will start on his part of it in October, after October 15th, and then Mr. Bright can do his part.
No.
And
I
it
have
should be
no,
back
I have
on
no
track.
problem getting it done by March 31st.
So the moral of the story is, our audit's done, but we gotta start again right now to try to get caught up.
Right.
And what that may make is us paying two
In 1 year.
audits and Dan's expenses in one budget year, right?
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
So that's something we're gonna have to look at, but it's necessary.